Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the SimNFL show. Real talk about fake sports. I am your host and commissioner. You can call me Pierce. Today we are covering all of the Week 13 action from the 2025 season of the Pro Sim over at SimSN. If you're unfamiliar, come check us out on the website or on Discord. We would love to have you. As always, today we'll be discussing the stats and summaries from all of our Week 13 games, culminating in my commissioner's choices for the players of the week. We'll do a quick injury update, look at the NFL standings. This time, for the first time, we're going to go by conference instead of by division, because that'll give us a better idea of the playoff picture. And then we'll go into the draft order, and then on the other end of the win-loss spectrum, the clinching scenarios. So we have one team that has already clinched a playoff spot and three more clinching scenarios to cover, and a lot of tiebreakers to discuss and key games as well. So all of that's going to be in that little segment there. And then our special segment tonight, we're looking at stat leaders. We're at about the three-quarter mark of the season, so we're going to look at key stat leaders in offensive and defensive categories and highlight some amazing rookies as well. So a lot to get to this year, and of course, we will cap that all off this episode with our preview for next week, which is Week 14 games. So a lot to get to, so let's dive right in. First game I want to cover today in detail, it was between the Bills and the Cardinals, a close-fought game where the Bills ultimately came out on top. Patrick Johnson threw an interception on the third play of the game to Alvin Anan. 2 plays later, Yusei Asensio found Brogdon on a 41-yard touchdown pass, which was started the Bills off with a 7-0 lead. In the second quarter, the Cardinals got a great start, field position at their own 47-yard line. They went 53 yards in 5 rushing plays. Thomas Gezik took the lead there, a 24-yard run, and then a 12-yard touchdown for him to tie the score at 7. Going to the second half now. In the third quarter, Asensio and Johnson threw back-to-back interceptions, but Johnson's left the Bills in great position, only 24 yards from the end zone, and they were able to score with Asensio finding Brogdon again with a 1-yard touchdown pass. So Brogdon got his second receiving touchdown, and the Bills again had the lead, 14-7. In the fourth quarter, Asensio was sacked all the way back at the Buffalo 2-yard line. Cardinals didn't get the safety, but after the punt, they got a short field. They drove 43 yards in 6 plays. Gezik, another great run for 21. And then Johnson found Yaxel Redmond, the tight end, for a 4-yard touchdown to knot things back up at 14. After the defense forced a Buffalo punt, Gezik had another great run for 36 yards. Arizona drove down to the Buffalo 21-yard line with 2:19 to go and looked to be in great place to break the tie and get away with the victory. But Darren Albers, the backup running back who was subbing in for Gezik for a play, fumbled the ball. It was recovered by Bills safety Adam Greer. And then Asensio in these last 2 minutes absolutely went off. An 18-yard completion to Brogdon, 28 yards to Donatello Scott, and then a 33-yard touchdown to Donald Kelly. And just like that, Buffalo came away with the victory. Asensio, 3 touchdowns, a pair of interceptions. Mickey Brogdon, over 100 yards, and those 2 reception touchdowns. And then Alvin Anan with that big interception early in the game as well. As for Gezik, a great day for him, 181 yards on the ground and a touchdown. Also want to call out Xavier Gibson with 5 tackles for loss, and Darius Mabry with a pair of interceptions. But it was the Bills that got the big defensive play there at the end, which turned the tide, and then Asensio drove them for the winning touchdown. The Bengals and Steelers met in an AFC North clash, with the Bengals coming out on top by 12. In the first quarter, after both teams missed long field goals, Gurvich had the first big play of the game, finding Madruga for a 56-yard gain. Unfortunately, an unsportsmanlike penalty on David Taylor, the running back, made it a first and goal from the 18-yard line. Bengals were not able to punch it in from there, and they got a short field goal. It was 3-3 in the second quarter. When Pittsburgh got the first touchdown, they drove 68 yards in 7 plays. Robert Morris finding Paul Garul for a 28-yard gain, and then Morris running it in himself from 10 yards out to take the early lead. Cincinnati responded, though. Gurevich finding his tight end, John Hendrickson, for a 33-yard gain, and then Campaverde for a 7-yard touchdown to knot things up at 10. And then right before halftime, Gurevich threw a huge interception deep in Bengals territory. Pittsburgh got the ball at the 10-yard line, had time to run a couple plays, got down to the 1, but then with 3 seconds left in the half, kicked a field goal. So the Steelers were able to go into the half with the lead, but the Bengals prevented a big touchdown. So it was 13-10. At that point, it was 16-10, Pittsburgh leading in the third quarter, when David Taylor broke off some big runs, 24 and 21 yards on the same drive, setting up his teammate Ronnie Jefferson for a 1-yard touchdown run, but the Bengals back on top with the extra point, 17-16. Pittsburgh responded with a short field goal to retake the lead, but then in the fourth quarter, Taylor again broke off a 29-yard run, setting up Gurevich, finding Campaverde again for his second receiving touchdown, this one from 5 yards out. That made it a 5-point Bengals lead. Pittsburgh drove to the Cincinnati 42 after that, but was forced to punt. And then Gurevich, his last big pass of the day, to Campaverde for a 56-yard gain, and then ultimately a 2-yard touchdown to Campaverde again, his third of the day, to put the game out of reach and give us our final score of 31-19. So only 5 catches for 78 yards for Campaverde, but 3 of those for touchdowns. David Taylor, a huge day for the Bengals as well, 36 carries, 188 yards, leading the Bengals to a big division win. Speaking of divisional matchups, Jacksonville went up against Houston and was able to handle the Texans to the tune of a 20-14 victory. Wayne Ricketts really paced the Jaguars, 37 carries, 224 yards, and a couple of touchdowns. His first one came in the second quarter. He had runs on this drive of 9, 10, 14, and then a 2-yard touchdown run, which made it 7-3 at that point. Later in the second, Matt Howard, a big pass to Ronnie Ritter for 56 yards, which ended up being a big chunk of Howard's production for the day. That set up a short field goal for a 10-3 Jacksonville lead. It was 13-6 then in the fourth quarter when Ricketts really took over again, carried for 10 yards, 8 yards, 12 yards, then a 24-yard touchdown for his second of the day, put him over 200 yards for the day. That made it 20-6 with under 4 minutes to go. And then, too little too late, but Nebel finally got hot. He went 6 for 6 passing on his final drive of the game, and 72 passing yards. So he had 6 of his 13 completions and more than half of his passing yards on this final drive, which ultimately ended with him finding Richard Rochelle for a 3-yard touchdown. But that was literally like the last play from scrimmage in the game. They added a 2-point conversion, but they were still losing by 6. So not quite the drama that Nebel was hoping for, although he did look impressive on that final drive. But yeah, 73 yards rushing for him, 65 yards for Johnson. Jaguars doing a good job of trying to keep one of the league's best 1-2 rushing combos in check. And then put on a display of their own with Ricketts, again, 224 yards and a pair of touchdowns, leading the Jaguars to the win. The Giants and Saints had a very defensive game, with the Giants ultimately winning 16-7. New Orleans touchdown actually came on their opening drive of the game. Landrum went 4 for 4 for 60 yards, including a touchdown pass to Josh Bassett, 22 yards. So the Saints had the early lead, and Landrum looked great on that first drive, but the Giants' defense really took over from there. Although it was uphill going. Late in the second quarter, Wilfredo Joseph threw an interception to Kenneth Wheat. New Orleans got the ball at the Giant 45. 3 plays got them down to the 11-yard line, but they ran out of time before the half. so missed a chance to add to that early lead. Landrum threw his first interception in the third quarter on the very first pass of the second half, actually. It was a deep ball, though, so it was basically an arm punt. The Giants went 3 and out, didn't get any points from it. So not until the fourth quarter did the Giants finally take the lead. New Orleans was pinned at their 9-yard line after a punt, and then Landrum got sacked down to his own 1-yard line. And then the Giants returned that punt all the way to the Saints' 19. So we're set up in the red zone when they took over. 2 plays, 2 runs later, Wilfredo Joseph ran it in for a 9-yard touchdown. The next drive, Bassett had a great run for the Saints for 24. Landrum threw it to wide receiver Daniel Castro for another 24. But then they ran out of steam. The Saints did 3 plays, no yards, and had a short punt. And then the next New Orleans drive, Landrum threw an interception at midfield to Xavier Wheeler, so no points there. It was still 10-7 at that point. And then the Giants put together a late drive, Joseph finding Matthew Madden for 17 yards on a critical 3rd and 11. Giants needing to maintain possession to potentially run out the clock. But actually that drive ended with Jonathan Perez breaking away for 28 yards, finding the end zone. Missed the extra point, but it gave them the cushion they needed. And then Landrum threw an inconsequential interception on the very final play of the game. So Giants, slow offensive day, but they came away with the win, 16-7. Jonathan Perez over 100 yards with a touchdown. Held Landrum to 157 yards, with, again, 60 of those being on the opening possession, including the touchdown. For the Saints, big day for Dwayne DePaula and Jeffrey George, 4 tackles for loss each. But it was the Giants coming away with the win here. The Patriots pulled off a surprising upset on the Bears, rushing out to an early lead before winning 22-0. This one started with a couple of turnovers from the Bears. Gerald Lewis threw his first interception to Robert Briggs in the third quarter, was returned to the Chicago 28-yard line, and then Lions threw a touchdown to tight end Randall Marquardt for 25 yards. That actually gave the Patriots a 10-0 lead at that point. Then in the second quarter, Lewis was intercepted by Briggs again. That one was returned to the Bears 31. Rashawn Lyons threw to Rashard Ward for a 20-yard gain, setting up a touchdown run from Fish Liggins from 2 yards out. Just like that, at halftime, the Patriots were up 20-0. After halftime, the Bears would put together 2 solid drives in the third quarter, but they would miss field goals of 38 and 31 yards, failing to get on the board. But still in the third quarter, Rashawn Lyons threw an interception to Brandon Ioannidis. That led the Bears to set up a 12-play, 57-yard drive, ending with a Gerald Lewis 2-yard touchdown run. So they finally got on the board, but Chicago did not cross midfield again until their final drive of the game with under 2 minutes to go. They would drive down to the Patriots' 19-yard line, but turn it over on downs right at the end of the game. So the final score stayed at 20-17. Lewis with those 2 big early interceptions, setting up 14 Patriots points, ultimately being the difference in that. Rashawn Lyons, 290 yards, including 131 to No Morales, and Briggs with those 2 big interceptions to lead the Patriots to victory. On Monday night, the Eagles and Browns had a very unusual contest in which the Eagles came out ahead. Cleveland's first drive of the game, they drove down to the Eagles' 40-yard line before Rivera threw an interception to Nate Simeon. And Philadelphia ran 3 running plays and scored, starting with a pool party from 31 yards out for the early 7-0 lead. Cleveland had 2 more drives into Philadelphia territory, but they would miss field goals of 55 and 43 yards, failing to get on the board and cut into that lead. Then later in the second, they drove to the Eagle 44-yard line, but Rivera threw an interception, this time to Andrew Kangas. Got no points out of that. So yeah, Cleveland had 5 drives across midfield in the first half, and they got no points. A short punt, 2 turnovers, and 2 missed field goals. So it was still 7-0 into the third quarter when Cleveland finally put together a drive. Rivera found John Morey for a 29-yard gain, his tight end Stephen Eilers for 16 and 11-yard gains, and then Juan Mora put it in from a yard out to tie things up for the Browns. Philadelphia would retake the lead, though, on a field goal from John Rigoza, a 53-yard from the former Browns kicker, now on the Eagles. And then the dagger came in the fourth quarter. With the ball on the 12-yard line, Rivera threw a pick six to John Robinson. That was actually his third interception of the game. It was for Rivera. That made it 17-7. The Browns would not score again until just before the end of regulation. They actually drove 80 yards in the final 4 minutes and 35 seconds. Another Juan Mora 1-yard touchdown run was the end of that drive. But that was literally, again, one of the last plays of regulation. They missed the extra point as an extra insult to injury, and the Eagles escaped 17-13 with the win. The Browns outgained Philadelphia 405 to 271 in the game, but despite that, still lost. Mora with his 2 touchdowns and over 180 total yards. Alsadek, 20 carries for 87 yards for the Eagles. He got extra carries because Badgley was injured in the middle of that game and had to come out. And then, of course, John Robinson with the big pick six to seal it for the Eagles on Monday night. As for the rest of the league scoreboard, the Colts easily handled the Baltimore Ravens 31-3 on Thursday night. Freitag was 18 of 26 for 182 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions. Detroit's defense picked off Andrew Michael 5 times, leading the Lions to a shutout of the Jets 26-0. Dakota Link had a phenomenal day for the Panthers, threw 59 passes, completing 41 of them for 420 yards and 5 touchdowns. The Panthers defense also intercepted Taphorn 4 times on only 20 attempts, as Carolina won 38-17. Miami hung 52 on the Chargers for another big win. Hammonds 32 of 50, 506 yards, 5 touchdowns from him as well. Atlanta beat Kansas City 35-9, making use of the ground game. Michael Fulmer, 21 carries, 154 yards, and a pair of scores for him. The Rams beat the Titans 49-23 was the final. Avila, 29 of 34, 446 yards, and 5 touchdowns for him, joining the elusive as many touchdowns as incompletions club for this game. Seattle blanked San Francisco 27-0. They picked off Andrew Solano 4 times on his 24 attempts on the way to the shutout. And then Green Bay beat Minnesota 43-22. Garibay having the best quarterback day in a week that was full of them, 32 of 40, 566 yards, 6 touchdowns, no picks. Fantastic day from Garibay as they double up Minnesota en route to victory. So that leaves me with my choices for players of the week. A fantastic day for quarterbacks, as we saw with Hammonds, Garibay, Avila, 3 of the 4 quarterbacks who threw for 5 or more touchdowns. Wayne Ricketts of Jacksonville, 224 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. Campaverde with all 3 touchdowns for the Bengals. And I ran out of room, but I did want to also call out Rams receiver Scott Baldwin, 156 yards on just 7 catches and a pair of scores for him. On the defensive side, Jeffrey Jesse of Baltimore, 6 tackles for loss to pace the league. 4 for Matthew Zimmer of Tampa Bay, including a pair of sacks and a fumble. 5 for Gibson, 4 of those being sacks for Arizona. 4 from Jeffrey George of the Saints, and then Bobby Gonzalez rookie from San Francisco, continuing to impress with 3 takeaways, 2 interceptions, and a fumble recovery for him. So, congratulations to all those players on being named the Commissioner's Players of the Week. So, here is the injury report coming out of Week 13. Some new names to note here. Bengals center Raul Hallett and Texans defensive tackle Huey Enrique out for 4 weeks with a concussion. Big loss for them as he's been having quite a season. Speed receiver Michael Walker for the Chiefs will miss next week with a sprained knee. And then the the Bears tackle John Mendenhall out for the remainder of this season with that hamstring injury. Same story with Vikings outside linebacker Jeffrey Kirsting. Shoulder injury, going to take him out for the remainder of the regular season. The Saints safety Kevin Hansford also lost with a knee injury. He'll miss the rest of the year. Matthew Blankenship will only miss a week for the Rams. Minor ankle bruise for him. And then some names that are now finally off of the injury list and will be coming back for Week 14. Miami guard Thomas Maddock has returned. Baltimore's backup quarterback, Quandre Quintanilla, the rookie, is back. So they will no longer be fielding a kicker behind center or an emergency running back. Alton Knowles, the free safety for Atlanta, is back. And then a pair of guards for the Arizona Cardinals, Arden Niang and King Pradden, are both returning as well. So, as I said, for the remainder of this season, we're going to look at the standings from a conference viewpoint, starting with the division leaders and then the wild card and going down from there. We will also highlight any of the current key tiebreakers and then big games that will be coming up for the remainder of the season. And then after we do both conferences, we will talk about clinching scenarios. So for the AFC, we have a surprising division with Miami and Denver at the top, and then an absolute slew of 6 and 7 win teams. So tiebreakers right now to note. Also, it's important to say for the NFL, division tiebreakers always come first and stay permanently. So keep that in mind when you're looking at tiebreaker scenarios. Always do the division first and then keep those orders the same. That can really change things. So Indianapolis right now is the 3 seed ahead of the Jacksonville Jaguars. They've beaten them already. They've got a rematch coming in Week 15, which could have huge implications for the division. But for right now, based on that first victory, the Colts are ahead. And so Colts at 7-5, leading the South on tiebreakers. Cleveland still leading the North, although that lead has dropped to 2 games. So they are now the 4 seed. And then Indianapolis has 1 more conference win currently, which is why they're ahead of the Browns. Jacksonville gets the top wild card based on their better conference record over Vegas. So Vegas at 7-5. Tennessee at 7-6. They get a late bye next week. And then we'll finish their season. And then just on the outside looking in currently at 500, Chargers and Bills, with the Chargers having the better conference record there. And then Houston, also the beneficiary of a late bye, so they will be off next week, but then we'll have 4 more games to finish out the year, and are still absolutely in range in that AFC South and just in the wildcard race in general. So a very packed group from 3 through 10 in the AFC. Some key games to look out for next week. Cleveland is at Jacksonville, which is a big game both just for seeding and tiebreakers, but also for 2 teams who are very much need every win to stay in the hunt. And then Buffalo will be at Tennessee in Week 17. That's another big one. Obviously, lots of division games left to be played as well, and all of those are going to be crucial, especially in the AFC South. But 2 in particular non-division games to look out for: Cleveland at Jacksonville next week, and then Buffalo at Tennessee. Week 17 could end up being a de facto playoff game if the 2 teams are still in the hunt at that point. Switching now to the NFC, we also don't have any 8 or 9 win teams in the NFC, but the group at the top is a lot larger, with 5 double-digit win teams, led by Washington at 11-1. Green Bay currently in the number 2 slot at 10-2, thanks to their undefeated conference record. Both their losses are out of conference over the Rams and Atlanta. And then between 3 and 4 right now, it's incredibly tight. Right now, it's a strength of victory tiebreaker for the Rams. But yeah, there's a lot that could cause that to switch back and forth between 3 and 4. And the reason Atlanta is 4, not Carolina, is because of the head-to-head matchup. Atlanta has defeated them. There will be a rematch in Week 18, the last week of the season those two play, and it could end up being very much an NFC South championship game. So look forward to that one. So Carolina in a great space at 10-2, and then we have Dallas at 7-5, and Seattle currently has the last playoff spot at 6-6. That's based on their 4 conference wins. And then Philadelphia and Detroit chasing them, and that one's also very tight. It's currently strength of victory, so a lot could still happen. But very much chasing Seattle and the Cowboys, and could need some help even if they stay winning. Yeah, that is it for the NFC. Again, a group of 5. And then 4 teams really competing hard for those last couple of wild card spots. Games to look out for outside of division. Week 15 is going to be a huge one in the NFC. We've got the Green Bay Packers going to LA to face the Rams. That's the current 2-3. And then Carolina is at Washington, which is our current 5-1. So yeah, 2 huge implications, both for seeding and tiebreakers. That'll coming up in a couple of weeks in Week 15. So here are the current clinching scenarios. Miami has clinched the East. They have absolutely got that locked up. And then Denver can clinch the West with a win and a loss by the Vegas Raiders. Denver has that head-to-head on lock. They've beaten Vegas twice already this season. So if they can win and Vegas loses, they'll be up 4 games with 4 to go and have the tiebreaker in hand. So that'll be a clinch for them. In the NFC, the schedule actually lines up for a couple of clinching scenarios. Washington can clinch the East with a win. Now the asterisk there is because actually for the clinching scenario to work, the Commanders need to win and the Cowboys need to lose. But they're playing each other this week. So if the Commanders win, it essentially counts double for them. They gain a win. Cowboys gain a loss. That means Washington is effectively 5 games up now with only 4 to go. So that's their scenario. Green Bay can clinch the North. They need to win or they need the Lions to lose. Packers are up 4 games. And even if Detroit were to catch up, including a head-to-head victory, it would ultimately go to the Packers on conference record. The Lions can't catch them there. So all the Packers need to do is to not lose a game back to the Lions this week. So if they win or the Lions lose, either of those, that means it's a 4-game lead with 4 weeks to go plus the tiebreaker. Green Bay's wrapped it up. And then the Rams can clinch the West with a win. Similar situation to Washington in the East. They're up 4 games on the Seahawks, and they are playing the Seahawks. So if they win this week, it becomes a 5-game lead because the Seahawks also will lose, and that way the Rams will have it tied up. Now, obviously, all 3 of those teams you expect to still be playing hard through the end of the season because the difference between a 2 seed and a 4 seed is huge, and right now all of them are tied. So a lot still to be played for, even if those divisions get clinched. But that's what we're looking for in the NFC. Also, I should note, Atlanta and Carolina obviously will not have a clinching scenario as they are deadlocked in the South. But starting next week, they could start to have playoff clinching scenarios just for guaranteeing at least a wild card. If they win this week, they'd have 11 wins. It means the worst they can do is 11-6, which puts them in kind of a tiebreaker scenario. I wasn't going to go through all of them this week because there's a lot of possibilities. But starting next week, those 2 teams could both at least guarantee some sort of playoff spot if they continue to win. So we'll look at that a little bit closer next week. On the other end of the spectrum, here is where the current draft order is. San Francisco still at number 1. The Saints still at number 2 with their pick going to Detroit. New England has dropped to 5 with that a victory over the Bears. Bears are up to 4, Minnesota up to 3, with the Jets and Kansas City behind them, but all of them still with 3 losses or with 3 wins. So it comes down to strength of schedule. And actually, Chicago and New England are completely deadlocked. So they are essentially tied for 4th right now. And then among 4-win teams, we have Baltimore picking 8th, followed by the Giants at 9, Arizona, Tampa Bay, and Pittsburgh rounding out our top dozen. But between 3 and 12, only 1 game difference. So still a lot that could happen in these final 4 weeks. So, as I said at the top, we're about 3/4 of the way through. That math doesn't work easily with a 17-game schedule, but whatever. So we're going to take a look at some of our stat leaders for this year, starting with passing, and no surprise, our current passing leader, all these come from the interface, by the way, and I'm just taking it at face value, no pun intended. Avila is our passing leader, just passed 5,000 yards after his fantastic day last week. Also our touchdown leader with 41 touchdowns. As far as completion percentage, Peter London with a fantastic 79.2% is pacing the league. But as far as QB rating goes, it absolutely goes to Dean Hammonds. 176.99 is his listed rating on the interface, and a big part of that is his leading 35-9 interception ratio. Nearly 4-1 touchdowns to interceptions. And second place, I believe, is Link, who is just over 2-1. I think he's 27-12. So, yeah, huge gap for Hammonds there, which is helping him to that ratings lead. On the rushing side of things, our current rushing total leader is Thomas Gezik of Arizona, who is just coming up on 2,000 yards for the season. Stephen Tabbert is our rushing touchdowns leader with 22 scores on the ground. And among qualified running backs, Joseph Kale is our current leader in yards per carry at 7.27. And then we have 4 running backs that are over 250 carries without a fumble this year. Juan Moore at the top of that list for the Browns with 319 carries without coughing it up. Tabbert of Washington over 300 as well. Richard Ward, our first rookie on this list, no fumbles yet in 281 carries, and then Michael Fulmer for the Chargers as well. As far as receiving, we have Scott Baldwin for the Rams, being the beneficiary of Avila's league-leading season. Baldwin over 1,800 yards receiving already on the year and on his way to 2,000. Kenny White of Miami leading the way with 14 receiving touchdowns. And Baldwin, unsurprisingly, also our receptions leader with 107. King Angelis of Kansas City is our lead yards per catch. He has 24 yards per carry on his 33 receptions to lead all qualifying receivers. And then we got to shout out Paul Caruso of the Carolina Panthers, far and away leading the field with 30 pancakes. Switching now to the defensive side of things, Jeffrey Jesse of Baltimore Ravens is our tackle leader currently with 93 tackles. Jose Sola, another tackle at the time for the Tennessee Titans, is our TFL leader with an astonishing 48.5 already on the season. It is absolutely the year of the defensive tackle. And along those same lines, Michael Cuevas of the Eagles with 21 sacks to lead the league. And then forced fumbles, we have 3 defenders, Samuel Bronson of San Francisco, David Helgeson of the Miami Dolphins, and May Felipe of the Browns, all with 3 forced fumbles, tied for the lead there. As far as defending the pass, our biggest deflection leaders are Jason Bumbarger of the Rams with 19 pass breakups, plus those 8 interceptions. Adrian Gerner of the Falcons with 19 as well, and Wei Bao of the Chiefs in there as well with a share of the lead at 19. And then our interception leaders, Kenneth Wheat of the Saints, added another this week to get to 9. Also has 12 passes defended. Amaro Rodriguez of the Cowboys has 9, and William Stevens of the Washington Commanders has 9 as well. And then on special teams, our leader in field goals is Antonio Frank of the Houston Texans, who has made 29. Our accuracy leader right now is Benjamin Ray of the Jacksonville Jaguars, who has made 25 of his 26 field goal attempts for an accuracy of 96.2. Hector Gonzalez of the Steelers has our longest kick of the year when he made a 59-yarder. And then as far as extra points, Francis Barmore and Herman Vanderhorst of the Chargers and Falcons, respectively, have yet to miss. 38 and 37 made extra points for both of them. William Orso leading our punts inside the 20 with 58 for the 49ers, who have punted a lot this year. As far as percentage, that goes to Patrick Brown of the Browns, who has hit inside the 20 on 62.1% of his 66 punts so far this year. Turning now specifically to rookie performance, our leader in passing yards, no surprise, is Corey Landrum of the Saints with 2,276 so far this year. Our rushing leader is actually Travis Neeble of the Texans with 1,351. If you're wondering about rookie running backs, Mitchell Reynolds leads that category with 1,149. Alsadek for the Eagles has 11 rushing touchdowns to pace all rookies. And then Ryan Peterson, the Jacksonville running back, actually leads rookies in receptions with 67. Will Huber of the Jets has 698 receiving yards to lead all rookies. He also has 4 touchdown receptions, tying him with Mitchell Reynolds and Mickey Brogdon of the Colts and Bills for the rookie lead. On the defensive side of the ball, James Wilson of the Cowboys is our tackles leader. Strong safety has 61 this year. Denver Litton of the Jets is our TFL leader with 16, and 8 of those are sacks, which is also best among rookies. Joshua Martin, safety for the Ravens, is our leader in pass deflections with 11. Also got to call out his 3 interceptions as well. And then our interception leader, he added 2 just this week, is Bobby Gonzalez. He has 8. Also, recall that the lead for the entire league is 9. So Bobby Gonzalez leading rookies with 8 and tied for 4th in the entire league. He's also got 7 passes defended as well. Fantastic performance from the rookie so far. So, with all of that in the books, here is what we are looking at for week 14. We've got a great slate of games starting on Thursday night with a cross-conference matchup. Vegas Raiders going to Carolina to face the 10-2 Panthers. 2 wildcard teams very much fighting for placement. Should be a fantastic game between 2 great passing offenses. Although I'm sure Carolina would like me to point out that they have really worked on their rushing attack this year, and it is quite effective. But Dakota Link, let's be honest. Anyway, great passing matchup there. Sunday at noon, as we mentioned, we have Cleveland at Jacksonville, which is a huge matchup for the AFC playoff race. And then Arizona at Philadelphia is also in the early Sunday slot. Moving to the afternoon, Tampa Bay is going to be in LA to face the Chargers, who are 6-6 and still very much in the hunt. And then the Rams at Seattle in what could be a division clinching game for the Rams if they were able to come out on top. And then some fantastic primetime games. Sunday night, Denver at Atlanta, a pair of 10-2 division leaders facing off. And then Monday night, another great NFC East clash with Dallas going to Washington to face the conference-leading Commanders. We also have our final 2 byes of the season. As I mentioned, Texans and Titans are off this week, and then we are done. Everyone plays the last 4 weeks of the season, so it will be a sprint to the finish after this. Well, that is everything I have for this edition of the SimNFL show. Thank you so much for stopping by. And as I say to all of our users in all of our sims, good luck and have fun.